of one or the other?
Yeah, so I think I really echo on that part. When we talk about energy transition, we hope decarbonization will be an added benefit rather than saying let's all go net zero, just net zero, because we're doing this for the sake of net zero. But I think we should be doing that for the sake of sustainable development, right? I mean, if you look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, energy is just one of them. And there are many other aspects, the energy transition needs to be a part of. Or they be part of this bigger transition, because they're also looking at opportunity to transit out of fossil fuel, even though they're fossil producers. And these are conversations I have with the Middle East government. So I think this is really a critical moment for maritime perspective. I think maybe rather than saying what my perspective, I think it's really the question of what are we going to do, in the next 5, 10, maybe 20 years.
So Teresa? Indeed, can you hear me? Right. You can hear me now. I think indeed what we're witnessing over the last 5 years, and it's not about philosophizing now, is one crisis after the other. It was COVID, it is now the war, and what has become apparent is that it's also a matter of security. As a matter of fact, the whole environmental policy in the EU was born after the oil shock, the oil crisis in the 1970s. Transition is about geopolitics. And the investment in renewables has become a geopolitical factor. We can see, for instance, that the US have taken a different pathway, and it's not on me to judge what is the right pathway here. We have seen that Asia and China have taken another pathway, and Europe now, I wouldn't say that we're in between, but for us the challenge is to make the right investment. And this is what we're seeing, that we have good and ambitious climate targets, but we're missing the investment in clean fuels and in clean energy. Talking about the IMO, I've already said that it's critical to ensure that we stay connected at international level, to maintain open trade. And the IMO discussion is also part of, is also in this context. William mentioned in his introduction that we need global rules to avoid market distortions. We need global rules, and for us, we are an international industry. We need also a global framework. And we hope that the IMO will come out with a meaningful agreement. We need to see what will happen, of course, next week. For us, the clear priority, we have the European rules in place. The European rules, I would say, in terms of emissions deliver. In Europe, we have seen a significant drop in air pollutants over the last 15 years. Sulfur emissions have dropped by almost 70%. And I saw the results, the announcement of the Commission last week. Shipping emissions under the ETS have dropped by 3%, much more than land-based installations. But what we're missing is their investment in clean fuels in Europe, which is part of the energy security debate. We also need urgently global rules to ensure a level playing field. And we have this discussion if we really need global rules. I would say we definitely and urgently need global rules, even if some of you might not agree with the ambition. Once you have a framework in place, we can talk about the ambition. The ambition is not written in stone. It can change, but we urgently need the framework there.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think we may have some similar views here. I think 2 years ago, this was really a climate story for many people. And now that we have the Strait of Hormuz, this is a national security issue, clear day and day. And that changes everything about who makes the decisions, who's at the table, the risk management strategy that is not just climate obligation, but energy security obligations. And then the additionality when it comes to grid infrastructure in order to see the e-fuels and the shipping decarbonization that's so important for all of us.
I wish I could talk more about energy security, but has been emphasized enough. But I want to talk about the timeline. I think when it comes to maritime decarbonization has always been well planned out, time dependent, right? So starting from 2000, moving all the way to 2050, with ambitions of being net zero, change along the way nonetheless. But it has been planned and prepared. And the challenge about decarbonization, especially moving towards mid to long term, was always about the carrots and sticks, right? So having a cost parity of the fuels, either making the conventional fuels more expensive or looking at the newer one to be a lot more attractive. And then adding a layer onto it by GFI, carbon intensity. The recent changes possibly allow to have a recalibration of the priorities and how they should be weighed against each other. I think moving away from the carbon intensity angle and the price of the new fuels, now we'll be talking about decentralization of energy sources, how we can actually reduce the dependence on fossil fuels. So this changes a bit.
It's really heartening to see that I think our panelists do have a shared goal in mind, a shared vision. But the issue now, I guess, is the geopolitics that has crept into the picture that is weighing energy security against this vision of a cleaner future, right?
A lot of concerns around the actual use of ammonia. We didn't test the elephant in the room, which is toxicity. But I hope that by 2030 there will be answers to it, good answers, so that will help us to go beyond and start to scale up.
Did I say the international net zero framework? That's what I'd love to see. Also, I want to give a shout out to California. They're working right now on a potential in-transit regulation, which I think will also spur a transition and thinking about cleaner engines, cleaner fuels, to also spur other regions around the world to do it on their own if we cannot get an international framework. I didn't say nothing.
I would say an international and global framework, but I think that it's also interesting to take a step back and check where we were 5 years ago, instead of projecting where we'll be 5 years ahead. And 5 years ago, we didn't have any regulation at all. And the whole debate at IMO level seemed to be completely stuck. And since then, we've got the introduction of the EU rules in place, and we've got also very ambitious commitments at global level. And this is why we're discussing now if we'll have a multi-fuel future or one single fuel future, or if we're missing the investment or if we're missing the finance. So I'm optimistic by nature.
Yeah, so I think two things. One thing might happen and one thing will surely happen. The things that might happen, and I'm hoping this would happen, is in ASEAN taxonomy on marine fuel. Having our own classification, or maybe an emerging economy based sustainable marine fuel to get started off. Of course, we hope to attain the golden standard in the time to come. This, I think, might happen in the next 5 years. We're working very hard on that. The other one I think definitely will happen is methanol fuel cell vehicles. We already see methanol fuel cell trucks running on the street. Not in Singapore, elsewhere. And methanol fuel cell boat, ocean-going vessels, well, ocean-going vessels may be difficult. A boat, definitely, right? Electrify, this is really just alternative to electrified boat. So methanol fuel cells, I think that is almost a definite future that we're going to see. Maybe not in Singapore, but definitely in this region, Asia-Pacific region, we're going to see methanol fuel cell boat running around. So I think by 2030, these are the two things I think we will see and I hope we will see.
I feel like thinking about this, turning it into a bit of a wish list. But I prefer that, and I prefer to think positively about these things and framework, standards, tangible advancement, that becoming a reality in the way that, when we think about where we were 5 years ago, we think, gosh, I would have never have expected it to be that great. So I think that's, from my perspective, it's so, things move and things are so dynamic from day to day, hour to hour, as you were saying earlier, at the moment. But I truly believe that this is something which is going ahead, and we've got a fantastic panel, which I feel very honoured to sit amongst, and looking at things that you're doing in terms of creating an ecosystem. It's just, we are seeing this movement. It's just that we'll see it hopefully accelerate.
And on that note, thank you everyone. Thank you all great panelists. I think what we take away from here is that the industry is really keen to see things moving forward. We just need that first initial step, and thereafter we can see a cascade of direction in this future. Thank you once again, and thank you for all the attendees for sitting into this panel. We hope you took something away from it.
Thank you for the panel.